One of our biggest questions has finally been answered. There's at least some clarity as we head into Elimination Chamber, but most importantly, some clarity regarding WrestleMania 40. The Rock is back and he's a heel. Most importantly, he's a Hollywood heel, and he has officially joined the Bloodline, which in my opinion was a segment that was delivered perfectly. This segment did everything it needed to do without it being this long-winded promo about Bloodline family lore. It told us what kind of Rock we're getting, and it showed where his allegiances lie. It really didn't need to be any deeper than that. And it's kind of crazy to think that this is where we are now, when just 2 weeks ago, the internet was set ablaze by the cuckening of Cody Rhodes, which presumably at least meant that we were going to be getting a heel Roman Reigns main eventing WrestleMania against a babyface Rock. A match that, yes, we all did want, but WWE chose the worst timing and the worst way to give it to us. And we, the powerful Cody crybabies, cried as loud as we possibly could, and we won. The ship is now steered in the direction that we originally wanted it to go to, which is Cody finishing the story. Maybe. So all it took to get to where we are today was rage from millions of people online, giving the WWE their most disliked YouTube video of all time, fans chanting Rocky sucks at shows, and an entire press conference dedicated to fixing their original fuck up, and boom, just like that, we got the slap heard around the world. The Rock posted me on his Instagram, and The Rock is the biggest heel in all of professional wrestling. It was an easy formula. However, even though we are now heading in the direction of Destination Cody Rhodes, it does beg the question of how and where The Rock actually comes into play now that he's a major heel in this story. Will The Rock have a match at WrestleMania? Will The Rock interfere in the main event? What is the dynamic between The Rock and Triple H gonna look like? Is The Rock bamboozling everyone and is actually aligned with Cody Rhodes and is just a double agent in the Bloodline? I still have so many questions, and I love that I'm still wondering where the hell this train is going. This road to WrestleMania just honestly continues to get better and better, so let's talk about it. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications if you're a wrestling fan. I know you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we upload daily wrestling content. In this video, I will be talking at length about the main event segment of Friday Night SmackDown, which saw The Rock come out, show his heel ways, so obviously, spoiler alert. If you wanna watch my review of the entire episode of SmackDown, I already uploaded the review of the show over on Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, I upload extra content that is exclusively available on Patreon, like the reviews of Raw, SmackDown, Wrestling is Cool Gaming, and the Wrestling is Cool podcast is uploaded 3 days early over there. So I'll leave the link in the top of the description. Again, it's patreon.com/SantiZap. First, especially if you're a newer or younger wrestling fan, I want you to understand why a heel Rock is such a big deal. Don't worry, this isn't gonna be some sort of shitty mansplaining about why heel Rock is so great, because it really isn't that deep. The hype really just comes down to the fact that heel Rock is historically incredibly entertaining, fans love him, and it's just a really rare occurrence to get this version of The Rock, especially in today's landscape. To find the last time that the world was graced with The Rock as a heel, you have to go all the way back to 2003. That is 21 years since we've gotten a heel Rock, and I guarantee you some of you that are watching this weren't even born then. And although many of you know that John Cena is my favorite WWE superstar of all time, it's actually the 2003 version of The Rock, Hollywood Rock, that is my undisputed favorite character in WWE history. Sadly, this was a character that we only had on screen for about 3 months, but in those 3 months, he gave us the sequel of Rock versus Hogan, the trilogy match between Rock and Austin. He put over Goldberg on his way out, and he even lost to the Hurricane in the culmination of one of the greatest comedy feuds of all time. This was a version of The Rock that was delusionally far more famous in his own head than he actually was in real life, considering that at that time he had only filmed The Scorpion King and The Mummy Returns, I think, but now he actually is the most famous man in all of Hollywood. The way he roasted fans, wrestlers, commentators, backstage correspondents was on a level that, in my opinion, we have never seen reached before. His heel promos in Toronto and his Rock concert in Sacramento are things that you absolutely must watch, because to me, those are the two greatest heel promos ever of all time, both done by the same guy under the same character in just the span of a couple of weeks. 2003 Rock really was just levels above anyone else when it came to being an entertaining heel. But that was it. The Rock would permanently move to Hollywood after early 2003 and make sporadic appearances in the WWE over the next 20 years, but all of those appearances were as a babyface. He came back in 2004 to work with Mick Foley against Evolution at WrestleMania 20 as a babyface. He returned to host WrestleMania 27 as a babyface. He returned for a twice-in-a-lifetime feud against John Cena at WrestleMania 28 and to feud against CM Punk, all as a babyface. He saved Roman Reigns at the end of Royal Rumble 2015 as a babyface. He came back for a 6-second match at WrestleMania 32 as a babyface. And any and all promo-only appearances that he would make moving forward were all as a babyface. And some of these babyface promos were super recent too, like when he came back to roast Austin Theory in September of 2023, and when he came back to roast Jinder Mahal at Raw Day 1. So all historical evidence pretty much had it destined that if The Rock were to come back again, that he was going to return as a babyface, which he did until we completely hijacked those plans. But if I'm being honest with you, even during the whole We Want Cody debacle, I never once thought that The Rock would actually become a heel. It never even crossed my mind. After all, this is the same guy that spent the last 21 years making appearances in the WWE as a babyface, and the same guy that has a long-standing history of demanding to be the focal point superhero in every project that he's ever worked on over the last 10 years in Hollywood. To me, it seemed like pretty much an impossibility that we would get a heel Rock, yet somehow all of the blocks fell in the exact right position and in the exact same sequence needed to summon the heel version of The Rock from his 21-year-old slumber. Now, what I'm about to say is an obvious over-exaggeration, but the way that I see this whole scenario is like when Doctor Strange looked at all 14 million outcomes only to find out that the Avengers only win against Thanos in one of those 14 million scenarios. I honestly kind of feel like we're in the one of the 14 different million scenarios in different timelines, and we happen to be in the one where The Rock actually turned heel. So to answer the question that we posed earlier of why is The Rock turning heel such a huge deal, well, it's because it hasn't happened in 21 years, and the real world landscape of The Rock's Hollywood empire made it almost virtually impossible that this would even happen. Yet here we are, pretty much entirely thanks to one awful mistake, which was the cuckening of Cody Rhodes. Now let's actually talk about this new version heel Rock. The new Rock came out to the same electrifying theme song that he has, which I do sincerely hope that they change for a more ominous version of his theme like they did back in 2003. But even though he didn't have a new theme, he turned back the clock with his 90s swag Versace shirt that he had on and all that jewelry. Just seeing him wearing something other than a sleeveless version of the merch that he typically wears was enough to get me to pop out of my seat, because a wrestler's attire speaks volumes about their character, and the Versace shirt instantly told me that this was going to be The Rock that we hadn't seen in decades. Now I actually kind of see why Edge called Ricky Starks a bootleg version of The Rock, but at least Ricky Starks was in good spirits about it, with The Rock looking like he just broke into his house and raided his wardrobe. But it was when The Rock grabbed the mic when I knew everything had fully turned upside down, as The Rock congratulated the audience in Salt Lake City, Utah for breaking an attendance record that night. An attendance record of the biggest gathering of trailer park trash that he had ever seen. And right after he roasted the audience that way, I knew that the personality that we were getting was 2003 Rock, who was the master of lulling fans into a false sense of security only to pull the rug from under them and roast them. And The Rock's tactic of tricking fans by playing to their expectations with his most famous catchphrases was on point during this promo. Instead of saying, "Finally, The Rock has come back to Salt Lake City," he said, "Finally, your life has meaning. Finally, you and your 50 wives have a story to tell. You'll have a story to tell your 600 inbred grandchildren." Just majestic. He even banned the fans in attendance from chanting along with The Rock's catchphrases, which is another staple of 2003 Hollywood Rock. If I had to guess what kind of Dwayne The Rock Johnson we're getting in 2024, honestly, between his awesome outfit and his hilarious crowd roasting promo, I would say that we're we're getting this hybrid of late 90s and 2003 Hollywood rock, which I'm 1,000,000% ready to experience. Now, in terms of the actual substance of this promo, there really wasn't much to it. When he finished roasting the crowd, he turned his attention to Cody Rhodes and pretty much made fun of him for feeling entitled to having another match against Roman Reigns after he had already lost at last year's WrestleMania, and put the blame on Cody Rhodes for robbing the people of the biggest match in wrestling history, which in his eyes is The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Which to me, honestly, just adds to the delusion of this version of The Rock, as he just honestly completely ignored the fact that Cody Rhodes actually earned this rematch by winning the Royal Rumble for a second consecutive year. But folks, this right here is when the tinfoil hats start to come out, because while addressing Cody Rhodes, The Rock said The Rock is going to do everything in his power to make sure you walk out of WrestleMania what you are, which is a loser. But if you actually rewatch that entire segment, when The Rock is saying that he will make sure that you walk out of WrestleMania as a loser, The Rock is actually pointing at Roman Reigns, which there does seem to be a very deliberate attempt by The Rock to change directions of where those words were being pointed to, and they were pointed at Roman. But then The Rock would then proceed to deliver his famous "if you smell" catchphrase, but changed it to "if you smell what the Bloodline is cooking," seemingly telling the world that Rocky has fully embraced the dark side and has joined the Bloodline. But there is yet another tinfoil hat theory here, because as everyone raised their ones to the air, including The Rock, if you look closely, The Rock isn't doing a 1. He's doing an L, which has some people speculating that he's actually a double agent that infiltrated the Bloodline with the sole purpose of making sure that Roman Reigns walks out of WrestleMania with an L. Well, it's that, or just no one gave The Rock the memo of how to just raise one finger into the air. Tinfoil hat theories aside, the fan reaction to this promo was oddly mixed. There were those that were expecting more substance and story development than what we actually got. But I think that this promo delivered everything that it needed to without it needing to be overly complicated. It told us what kind of Rock we were getting and that he's aligned with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. To me, that's sufficient enough to keep me engaged in the story without showing us too much of their cards and accidentally telling us where the story is finally gonna go, because I like not knowing where this is going, if I'm being honest with you. Now, the next major story beat in this saga is likely to play out at Elimination Chamber, as Grayson Waller hosts his talk show, The Grayson Waller Effect, with guests Cody Rhodes and, of course, Seth Rollins. And in this recent episode of SmackDown, we saw Paul Heyman having a backstage conversation with Grayson Waller that we as the fans couldn't hear. There weren't any microphones, I guess. But I think it's fair to make the assumption that both The Rock and Roman Reigns could make an appearance during Elimination Chamber. If they do make an appearance, a face-off between these four at Elimination Chamber would pretty much all but guarantee that we will be getting some sort of tag match between these four, most likely as the night one main event at WrestleMania 40. But honestly, at this point, I don't even want to try and predict what's gonna happen. I'm sort of just happy being taken on this roller coaster of emotions. Frankly, the story beat that I'm most interested in is the dynamic between the head of creative Triple H and the board member Dwayne Johnson, because although they've hinted at The Rock's power within the company, they haven't outright used it as a plot device in WWE TV just yet. So I'm pumped to see how that's gonna look, especially if we're gonna get promos between corporate Triple H and Versace 2003 hybrid Hollywood Rock. Right now, I'm just happy to be a wrestling fan. Heel Rock is not something that I ever thought we would ever see again, and yet here we are in 2024 geeking out about it. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you thought about The Rock's promo. Are you happy to see this evil version of The Rock? What did you think about his Versace shirt? Let me know down in the comments down below. That's it. I'm done. Get out of here.